All right, guys, let's continue with the next part. So today, again, I would like to discuss about some more services that we use in the storage world, right? In very straightforward, my plan is to cover one topic that is called EFS, Elastic File System. Okay, but before we go for this particular topic of EFS is by chance one of the name of the services from AWS Cloud. Okay, but before we go for EFS topic, let me very quickly give you the background, what exactly and how exactly is work. Plus, before this, we have to know the actual use case, because lots of guys know about the EFS, and they also know about the S3 and they confuse, right, when to use S3 or when to use EFS. Maybe right now you guys doesn't know what is EFS. We'll discuss today. But before I'll go for EFS service, let me guys if I again explain you S3, and then I will explain you what can you do with S3 that you know already, but what can't you do with S3. And that can't will lead us to use the service called EFS. Okay, so again I'm repeating, S3 is very simple service. EFS is again very simple service, even though I can complete this topic in 5 minutes, right? But the point is not to complete the topic. Point is, if you're learning some new technology or new services, you should know when to use and when not to use, right? Otherwise there's no why we are learning some new things, right? Okay, so let me explain you what you can't do with the S3 services. Okay, so if you have this kind of requirement, okay, for example, if you have this kind of requirement, you have one VM IP1, you have one instance IP2, you have one instance called EC2 instance in AWS called IP3. Okay, and you have a requirement to have some particular data to be shared in all these computers, maybe three computers or hundreds of computers in the AWS world. Okay, and data will be your file, and file would be image or videos or text and PDF or code, whatever you have. Okay, so if you want to share same data to all the computer, right, then there is no good use to go for EBS storage. Because if you go for EBS will give you one kind of block storage, one hard disk, one pen drive kind of thing. Okay, the only challenge in the one EBS you can attach to only one instance. Okay, but if you want to share some data to IP1, you have to copy over here and mount it, connect and mount it, or attach and mount it. Okay, but same data if you want to share in IP2, you again create one more new EBS, come with extra cost, one more EBS you have to create, and again copy the same data, again mount it. So technically in the EBS world, right, um, first it comes with extra cost for every instance you do buy extra EBS volume. Second thing, management would be very harder. Same data you to copy in all the location, and data keep on changing. If keep on changing, so you have to copy in all the EBS to update the data so that we can have the updated data in all the instances. So technically, if you have a requirement where we need same data to be shared or provided to multiple instances, EBS won't be the right choice. So the second choice would be we can go for S3, and that S3 can solve this problem. So we can put all the images here, all the videos here, all the file over here in S3. And good thing about S3 is a global service. We can put the data in one location, and you can access this data to any of the location in the world. Obviously, to your instances. So after we put the S3, we can share this data to this instance. Same folder we can share here, same bucket we can share here. So we have to copy in one location, we have to provide a charge to of one location, and any data change we have to update only over here only. Okay, what will change here, it will be updated and provided to these instances. Okay, so if you have a use case where you want to share the data to all the instances, okay, then you can use S3. Okay, but here guys, there's one scenario, especially if you want to share some data to multiple instances. There's one scenario that you can't solve with S3. Very simple scenario, but it's very important scenario to think on. Okay, the scenario is okay, if you put any file on the S3, yeah, according to S3, file is known as object, but let's say you put any file in S3 and this file contained some content, and by chance this content is not a normal content. This content is a code written in some language. Let's say they written in a Python language. Okay, so finally Python code is a content written in this file. So can you store this file in S3? Yes. Can you share this file in all the instances, IP1, IP2, IP3 in one single go? Answer is absolutely yes. Okay, but if your file is located in S3, and because your file contain code, and because you have a code, so final intention is is not only to copy the code here. Intention is to also run the code or execute the code. Execute the code. Okay, and you guys know, maybe in some of my training or some of class might have discussed to you, right, that is if you want, for example, IP3 is one operating system. It contain RAM, it contain CPU, or maybe they contain their own local hard disk, or maybe there are some of the hard disks is there in the S3. Okay, they are using. Okay, so if you have any requirement where you have a file that contain a code that's called program file, and if you want program file to be run or to be execute, okay, on the IP3, and obviously guys, if you want to execute the program file, you need a RAM and CPU. That obviously we have, because this is the operating system. Operating system should have the RAM and CPU. But if you want to execute a code on the top of this RAM and CPU, or I can say in IP3, okay, then the only way possible is you to first copy your file in their local hard disk. Okay, again I'm repeating guys, if your file is not located in their local hard disk, it is not possible to run the code on IP3, and it's not possible to run the code on the computing power or the RAM and CPU of the IP3. Okay, it is something like this. It is something like this. You can think S3 is like your Gmail. Okay, because Gmail is also or like a Google Drive. Okay, so if you put any code in the Google Drive, okay, you can copy the code in the Google Drive. You can download the code from the Google Drive. But if your code is located in the Google Drive and try to run that code in your Windows, for example, this is my Google Drive over here. Okay, this is my Google Drive. And if I copy my code here, I can download the code. But code is located in the Google Drive. This called Google Drive is what? Object storage. And if your code is there in the Google Drive, and if you try to execute that code, okay, and you want to execute this code on the top of your current operating system in Windows, it won't work. It won't work. Okay, first you have to download the code. Okay, on the top of your that particular operating system, and then after download, then only you can able to run the code. So technically, in the code perspective, right, code should be first the part of this operating system hard disk. Or maybe I can say in little bit more clear form, rather than say I can say hard disk, I can say the code should be part of some of their file system. Okay, and this file system, you can think this file system is like a partition. Because when you create a partition, you have to format, and when you format the partition, it becomes file system. Okay, now this file system would be coming from your local hard disk. This file system may be coming from EBS, because you guys know when you attach the EBS, it becomes a new hard disk, and when hard disk come up, you have to create a partition and format all the things. It means, okay, it means if you want to run the code on IP3, and the very common requirement, because this code may be your web pages also, website also, PHP code, Java, whatever code you want to run. Okay, so either you have to copy the code in your localist hard disk, is called root device, Here in the EBS volume, maybe you can say send storage. Okay, but in both the cases, okay, if you store your code in your root hard disk or in the send storage in EBS, you won't able to share it, because there might be requirement where I will have to share the same code or same website in all the IPs. Okay, and because this is the code, so now possibility is either put in the local hard disk, but if you put in the local hard disk, it won't to share to IP1 and 2. If you put in EBS or IP1, it won't be shared to IP2 and 3. Or if you put in S3, we can share it, but if because you put in the S3, S3 is object storage, and object storage is used to store the data only. That's all. Object storage we can't use to do a connect in such a way that it will help you to run the code. Now, even though if you try it, put the code in S3 or put the code in Google Drive and try to run it without download, it won't run. You have to first download in your local hard disk, or I can say local file system. Okay, so my point is, guys, here is this is the limitation I can say about the object storage, or I can say about the S3. Okay, so if you have a requirement that you have a file, or I can say program file that contain code, and you want to share the same code to all the IPs, okay, plus you want to share in such a way that this system where you're sharing this code, okay, they feel, okay, the storage from where they're sharing are their personal file system, are their personal file system. Means well, guys, when I say file system, I internally mean to say inode table. And what is inode table? If you guys go through my Python classes, they are talk about what exactly is inode table. Okay, so but let's forget about this term. So if IP2 want to run some program file, so that that program file should be part of their file system. And now this file system would be local hard disk, it come from send storage, or there is one more possibility. Okay, and that possibility is this file system maybe come via network. So maybe I can put one computer here, put one hard disk here. Okay, in the hard disk I create one folder here. Inside this folder I put this program file here, and I share this folder in such a way that folder would be part of this IP. For example, this IP 100. So folder is a part of IP 100, but this folder I can share here, here, here at the same time. Same time they can access, and when they access, they start feeling that this folder is not actually the part of IP 100. This is actually my folder. This is actually my file system. This is actually my parcel. Okay, and so technically, finally, what I'm trying to tell you here is, if you have get a way that you can share your file system with the help of network, then we have to use a protocol called an EFS protocol, network file system, or network partition. Particularly is known as network file system. And this computer is known as NAS storage, network attached storage. Okay, and the good thing about NFS is, or NAS storage, NFS is just a protocol name, NAS is a concept name. Okay, so the good thing about NFS is one computer, we can create a folder and we can share the folder, and same folder can access or share to multiple computer in one go. Okay, same thing we can do with S3. But the good thing is, between the NFS or object storage or NFS or S3, okay, NFS give you a way that when this folder access here, so the IP1 field, this folder is part of my own local hard disk. This folder has my own local file system. This folder has their own, if I say technically, has their own inode table. S3 guys never share the inode table. In the simple term, if you talk about technically, they never share the file system, they never share the inode, right? And what inode, I highly recommend, guys, if you miss my Python classes, just go through it, explain very simply there what exactly the meaning of inode. Okay, but NFS give you. So NFS is just a protocol name. Like in S3, we use a protocol HTTP. So HTTP protocol never share the inode table, but NFS is the one share the inode table. That is the reason it is known as network file system. Okay, S3 is known as object storage. NFS is working on a concept called NAS. Or like in AWS, if you want to use object storage, we have S3 services. Like especially similarly, if you want to use NAS services in the AWS that internally work with a protocol called NFS, then the name of the service called EFS is called Elastic File System. Okay, is guys, NFS is Elastic File System. It's not server. Is in a network file system. So service name in the AWS is called EFS. EFS behind the scene use a protocol called NFS, and the concept name is called NAS, Network Attached Storage. So I already share you my NFS classes. If you guys go through my NFS classes, then I talk a little bit more about what exactly the NFS is. Okay, but the good thing about the AWS is if you need NFS services or if you need a NAS service, okay, so technically what you have to do, you have to first install the operating system, give the IP address, install the NFS softwares, configure the NFS server, attach some extra storage. Okay, you have to you have to do all the things by yourself. Then you can say, hey, now IP, let's say this IP 100. Now I can say now this system become an FS server, or I can say this system now become sometimes also known as file server, or I can say this system become a NAS storage. Okay, but in this case, we have to manage all the things. We have to configure all the things. We have to arrange all the things, and then we can go to our clients and ask them, if you want any storage, just go to NFS, get the storage, link the storage, and technically here, guys, for getting the storage, client has to mount. Okay, and the protocol they use in the network called NFS. So if you guys go through my NFS classes that I shared, I think today. Okay, so this part we have discussed there. Okay, but good thing about the AWS is, okay, you don't have to configure these things by yourself. Okay, so AWS has provided you a service called NFS as a service. And the name of service is called EFS. Okay, NFS service means they say we have given you pre-created, configured operating system with IP, RAM, CPU, hard disk, everything we give you with NFS configuration file configured. You don't have to worry about. Okay, so I am providing you NFS as a service. Just use it. That's all. Just use it. And obviously, where to use? At one of your computers. And that's computer top typically known as NFS client. And how to use? You have to mount it, link it. And because it is NFS, so same storage, or I can say same folder, you can mount in multiple computers same time. So everybody will see the same data. But good thing is when they see the data, these clients will feel that point in time, this is my storage, this is my local file system, this is my parcel, this is my inode tables. So whatever they can do locally to a file, for example, guys, whenever you have a local file, right? Local file system, you can use CD command. You can do ls command. Okay, but if you try to do CD command, ls command, S3, it won't possible, right? You can't use the CD command to go inside the S3. You can't use ls command to see all the file in the S3. Okay, means technically I'm talking about, you can't in S3, you can't feel this is my storage. It always look like that something is there on the cloud. We have to always download and we have to always upload. But NFS is a service, or NAS is a service. Here the service name is called EFS. Give you feel that this is my local storage. Internet they're not. They are the centralized storage somewhere on the cloud, but they give you feel that it is your storage. So that kind of power you can give it, and there are a lot of benefit for this, right? I don't want to discuss more about NFS here because today's we are in the AWS cloud training. But if you go to my NFS classes, maybe some of the use cases I talk about there, where NFS we need, and and if you guys go to technical world or storage world, NFS is a protocol very commonly used in the technological world. So NFS is very simple service, but very commonly used in the technological world. Okay, so that's all, guys, about about NFS. So finally, if your use case is you have a code or you want to share the same code to multiple computers, okay, and so that code is there in the centralized computer, but every computer will feel they have their own personal code come up, or because their personal, they will feel that their personal code, that code will now belongs to their computer or their hard disk or their file system, so they can run that code there. Of this code will be website, web applications, Python code, PHP code, whatever the code you want to share it. And it's not about the code. maybe some other requirement we have. Okay, that you want to share some file that you want that file, the system field that file belongs to IP3, IP2, IP1 at the same time, you can use it. And one more great use case I just want to tell you here is that you can't do with S3. Okay, very simple, very great use case. But just think in this way. For example, if you have one file of 10 GB, for example, this is one single file of 10 GB. Or this is a file with content, first line, second line, third line, fourth line. And you want to share this file to all the computers, IP1, IP2, IP3. Okay, there's two possibility. Okay, one possibility is you can share this file, put in the S3, and from the S3 you can share it. But if you share with S3, you know what challenge you will get? Okay, if IP2 want to download this file, you can download. There's no big challenge. S3 is great in durability and availability and speed, performance. They're great. Okay, but IP2, okay, don't want to download the complete file. They have a requirement to download only particular 2 or 3 lines, or they want to use cat command. Or you guys, if you know a little bit, some more command in Linux called head command. Head command is one they will read top 10 lines. Or maybe they want to use vi command. And guys, if you ever use vi command, not the entire file open, the initial page of the file is open. Okay, so if you want to read as initial some lines of the file in S3 is not possible. Internally, they first download the entire 10 GB file. Then only they will open this file. Then only you can read 5 or 10 lines, whatever you want to do. Okay, but we don't need to download the entire 10 GB, right, for to read only 5 or 10 lines of the file. But same file, if you share with NFS, here the service called EFS. Okay, 10 GB is here, but if these guy can see the entire 10 GB file, but if they need to read only 1 line or 10 lines or 100 pages of this file, they can do it. So without downloading and transferring the entire file via the network or via network protocol, they can do it. Okay, if you use a protocol called NFS. But if you use a protocol called HTTP, that S3 used behind the scene, or maybe if you guys know one more protocol, FTP. And in any of this protocol, okay, you have to entirely download the file or upload the file, because this file is never be part of their file system. Okay, but if you want to read some readable lines of the file, okay, this is only possible if this file belong to your personal file system. And if you want your file, they belong to personal file system, either copy in your local hard disk, copy in the SAN storage like AWS, and or maybe you can copy in the NAS storage. This use NFS behind the scene. So this is also one of the great use case NFS solve for you. And here if you want to use NFS in the AWS world, then the service called EFS we have to use. So guys, I'm trying to explain you exactly use case where to use EFS services, because after learning EFS, right, 99.9% guys has a doubt, always a doubt in the mind, when to use S3 and when to use EFS. Because finally it look both same, because in both the cases we are storing data centralized. But technical wise or technically or technological wise, a huge difference how they work behind the scene. Both are great, but depend guys what exactly you want. So that is the reason guys I just want to invest some time over here to explain you the actual difference and the use case between these two guys. Otherwise, working S3 and implementing practically EFS is not the big deal. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's go for the practical, how we can do it. So good thing about AWS is we don't have to configure NFS. They provide you NFS as a service, or file system as a service, or file as a service, whatever you want to say here, or NAS as a service, right? And name of the service they provide is called EFS. So let me search here, EFS. You can see managed file storage, or you can see the service name over here. If you go to storage world, in the storage, you can see EFS here. EFS is here. So 1 minute, please. And again, there's this very new service, or some year ago, they launched EFS over here. So it's a elastic file system services. Okay. So let me create a file system, even though if you see the file system term here. So when you see word file system, technically internally they're talking about inode table. And when you see inode table, it means somehow they know about every bit of your file. Who created the file, what time file modify, who is the owner of the file, what are the permissions of the file. So guys, if you know RWX command in Linux, or chown command in Linux, if you know sc Linux in Linux, if you know ACL in Linux, everything we can implement over here. Okay, but in S3 we can't implement. So if you try to implement sc Linux or RWX or ACL on the top of S3, it won't work, because S3 is not the file system. Okay, means they don't have the inode table, right? So again, those information might not so much important for us. Important for us is this one, to create a EFS file system. So just click on the create the file system. Okay, and here they want to give some name. Let's say my NFS. Just give some name. Okay, what is VPC? Next classes, guys, would be purely on VPC. We are going to discuss a lot from very basics about the VPC. I just want to create. That's all. That's all. It's done, right? It's so much simple and so much fast. Okay, so they are creating a NFS server for us. Okay, and if you right now, if you see, is so quick. I don't know why it becomes so quick, but they're nowadays, because they keep on optimizing as AWS cloud. So very quickly they say now it is available. Because this is available means your NFS server configured. And if you're interesting, if you know one thing, you don't have to install the OS. You don't have to configure the NFS file or NFS conf file. Everything they have done for us. Just one click and done. And you can think it is like I can give again one more term here. It is called serverless setup. And you know what is serverless? We will discuss in the future classes in detail. But in initial classes, I given this term, right? So like S3 is also serverless. This is also serverless. We don't know where the server is. We don't have to manage the server. Everything the AWS take care. We have to just use it. That's all. Okay. So let's see. Let's use this. And how to use. So according to current setup, okay, AWS has provided one server called NFS server. And this is managed by AWS. I can say this is a managed service. Or because this NFS server, who gonna use? Multiple systems can use in one single go. Multiple single clients can use in one single go. Okay, how? So if let's say this IP1 want to use, so they will go to NFS server and say, NFS, you have some storage, can you please provide me? Technically IP1 has to mount it. And guys, this is a simple rule. Whenever you want to use any storage that has a file system or the inode table, we have to mount it. Either it's come from NFS, it's come from local hard disk, it's come from EFS hard disk, come from SAN storage. Anywhere, if you have the storage that has a file system or the inode table, we have to mount it where I want to use it. Because NFS has a file system, so we have to mount it. What is file system? I don't want to discuss in this class, but if you want to know, go through my partisans classes that I highly recommend. But only thing you should know, if you are from IP1, if you want to access the NFS, you should know the IP of NFS. So here, guys, they provide the IP. So if you click on your name of the NFS here, so here, guys, they provide you somewhere the IP address of your NFS server. Okay, so where they provide you, 1 minute. Actually, they keep on changing the 1 minute. Sorry. So 1 minute, where it is goes. Okay, actually, I have to create access point also. One minute, even though, let me check again. One minute. It, um, these are the IPs actually, but this is the different IP because internally they create a cluster for us. Cluster for us. Uh, 1 minute, please. Mount targets. And actually, they provide you the mount point, but I think I have to create the access point here. Let me create the access point very quickly. Yep. Access point name, optional, 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 optional. 1 minute. So let me create. Okay. Now here they give you access point name. 1 minute, guys. Let me first check, then explain you. So this is miss something here. They give you one host name, right? They're showing available. 1 minute, what happened? They give you the IP. Actually, this IP, even though we can use this IP, all right, but they give you one more URL. Let's try to use these IPs, but they give one more URL. Okay, do one thing. Let me do one thing. Let me delete, right? Because I normally don't create in this direct way. Okay, I always customize. I just want to show you a very quicker way. Okay, okay, let me delete. Okay, this entire file system. 1 minute. Let me create again a little bit with customized way. 1 minute. Yeah, they're deleting. So let me create one more time NFS server or EFS file system. Click here anywhere. Okay. And this option called customize, even though they normally create, I don't know why they're not showing here. So let's say this is my NFS one. Okay. And here I'm just clicking on the customize option over here. Okay, now they give you more options to do something. So I'm not going for any kind of life cycle or backup. We will discuss in the future classes when we talk about performance, all the things. Okay, I'm not changing here. Encryption will talk in the future classes, and nothing about these points. Click next. Okay, they talk about VPC that we will again discuss in the future classes. Okay, and security group. We have to do, guys, one more small thing. You guys know what exactly the security group is. Okay, security group is. But before this, let me tell you one more small vocabulary here. This makes more sense. So you know because of the concept of high availability, okay, means whenever we ask Amazon to launch the NFS server, right now I'm launching the NFS server in the North Virginia. So what Amazon will do, right, internally, because in the North Virginia they have, I think, 5 or 6 different availability zones. Let's say 1A, 1B, 1C. Same server, they launch in all the availability zone. Okay, so same server running in 1A also, some is running B also, same server running in C also. So maybe because maybe one of the data center goes down, they will have a same server running in 1 and 1C. Or behind the scene, right? There's a concept guys uh, called um, um, called NFS cluster. So if you guys know anything about NFS, so if you go to advanced NFS, they create a NFS cluster. If you guys know one product in Linux called Red Hat clustering technology or pacemaker. There's some advanced software available. You don't have to know this, but Amazon will do for you. But if you go for Red Hat clustering for NFS, okay, so they use some kind of product called NFS high availability or or pacemaker. This one, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so anybody who know a little bit advanced concept about the Red Hat, so they might know this product, pacemaker. They will help us to create a NFS clustering technology. So there are a lot of things we have to do, all right? Even though anybody who know by chance about one of the advanced training of Red Hat called RSCA. In RSCA we have one pure course on clustering, one complete course in this topic. Okay, so do you think, guys, how much thing we have to configure? For example, just for knowledge, there's course called 436, right? It is entire course on high availability. Okay, and this course we just keep on talking about how to create a cluster of NFS and other things also, right? So there's a lot of things we cover here. So I'm discussing here, even though iSCSI also over here. If you want to know about iSCSI extra, also over here. So why I'm discussing this thing here, because this entire clustering here in this case NFS is done by AWS guys. You don't have to worry about it. So they are the purely managed services. They create an entire clustering for us of NFS. And the good thing is, because they have the multiple data center, so one computer they launch here, one instance they launch here, one instance they launch here, one C, and they create a cluster of this. So any of the data center goes down, same cluster, same node or same data is there in all in other nodes. So technically it's called high availability. So data should be always available, or NFS service is also always available. Okay, that's what they're doing here. And guys, by chance this node, final server, okay, where we actually keep the data, or where the client always connect, is unknown as mount target. So they launch multiple mount target for you. Okay, so you don't have to do it. They have done for us. So we see here multiple mount target they provide us for the NFS, okay, by this service. Okay, and they also recommend this. They recommend one mount target for one AG. You can create multiple also in one AG. Multiple you can add here. You can add, but they say at least we require one. This is one thing. And second thing is, it means if when I launch the EFS services. Okay, so if you see here in 1A, in 1B, total of 6 data center we have in Virginia. In Mumbai we have 3. So 6 internally NFS node they launch, or NFS server they launch. I can say one NFS cluster they launch. Okay, so they will do all the thing for you. But why I'm discussing this thing here again, just to tell you what lots of things Amazon has done for us. Okay, second thing is, if you talk about one of the node here, one of the computer here, so this is actually one computer, one issued instance. Okay, running let's say in 1A, or because this issued instance, okay, what this instance is doing, this is the NFS server for us. Or because the NFS server, this should have the IP address, and obviously this should have the firewall also, security group. Okay, so why is it important for us? Because if you want this computer, who is this? This is the my clients, right? IP1, IP2, IP3, IP4. These are the my clients. So this client have to connect to this IP. But if you want to connect, this firewall should allow. So by default, guys, this firewall is not allowed. So we have to also configure the firewall. I'll show you how to configure. Even though you guys know, because we discussed multiple things about firewall. By chance, the guys, they are creating this firewall called SEDC from something 7E0. So we have to update this firewall to allow these IPs wherever you want to mount. But technically, you don't have to configure anything. I just want to tell you these setting extra you have to do, and you guys know how to configure the security groups. Okay, next. So if you guys know again about NFS, so in the NFS conf file, if you guys know, we do a setting called read only, rewritable, right? And if you know a keyword called root squares, if you know those things, so those things we can do here. So I'm not doing any changes here. I'm just going by default, but these options also they have given here. Okay. Anything else? No, we don't need. Click. Yeah. So finally, guys, they are creating. Okay. So they are creating an NFS server for us. Okay. And they are creating, it is available. And now, because the NFS server, because this is for us, it is one single NFS server, but internally AWS has launched the entire cluster of the NFS. Or because they have the entire cluster, okay, so you can use any of the IP of this cluster to access any of the IP. So if you click on this cluster, click on the cluster, and they will have a access point, or I can say one minute, network. So in network, they have multiple IPs. So they are creating for us. So you can use any of the IP. That's what I was telling to you initially. You can use any of the IP to connect. Okay, but only thing is, before you connect, your security group should allow. Okay. So technically NFS service has been configured. We'll see the connectivity. So let's go and launch one of the instance, or I can say one of the NFS client to test this. Okay, so I'm going to create this NFS client. Okay, and this NFS client here I'm going to use as a EC2 instance. Okay, so you guys know how to use EC2 instance. So I'm launching this instance that I already have. So let me use the same instance that I already running with. Let me connect. So this is one of the instance we have. Okay. So before guys, I connect this instance, let's see the connectivity. Pick one of the IP over here to see the connectivity. Still they are creating. Now all the NFS cluster nodes is available. You can use any IP. So let me use this IP. Okay. But guys, maybe is all depend on the security group. Okay. So if security group has allow ICMP protocol, then we can connect. I don't think so. They allow ICMP protocol. Let's but check. Okay. So let me try to ping 172.31.86.200. No, they are not connecting because maybe they don't have a firewall that allow ICMP. Okay. But here we are not so much interested in ICMP protocol or ping, right? We are much interested on to mount it. Okay, so what exactly we would like to do? Let's say I'm here, and I would like to mount this guy. So for this, you need only one thing: the IP of the NFS. And you know, answer yes. I know the IP. You can use any of the IP, but I know the IP. But if you want to mount, so for the mounting, guys, the client system, you have to create a folder. So let's say I'm going to create a folder called my data. Again, and if you want to mount, then command is called mount. You want to mount in this folder, and the IP of NFS server is this one. But guys, this IP, right? IP we never mount, right? We always mount the storage. So this IP has one storage. This is called slash storage. Okay. And because this IP and this slash storage, so between this, we have to write colon, as this is syntax of the NFS server. I told you my NFS classes also. So, and this IP, technically, this is 120, for example. So from 120, I'm connecting to NFS server running on, let's say, 200, and asking NFS server, all the storage that you have is called your slash storage. Because we know this is an NFS server, and normally NFS server we always configure in the Linux. So we know in Linux, the main storage is always slash. So whatever folder you share, slash contain every folder name. So just share those folder to me. Okay, means the mount to me. Okay, but from IP 120, if I'm going to this system, I don't know about the firewall, but if the firewall allow of this guy, we can connect. So if you see, guys, it is taking a lot of time, a lot of time. It, but obvious, all right. It means at IP 200 firewall is not allowing. Okay, so what to do? So to go to this firewall and allow the things, right? That's all. And how to go to this firewall, you know, because guys, whenever you create a firewall always create inside this tab. So in my EC2 dashboard, this is a security group, and name of the firewall here is in the last 57E0. 57E0, see here, it's come up. And if you click on this firewall security group, and they say anybody come in bound rule. Okay. Now, guys, one interesting concept I just want to explain you about the firewall that I haven't discussed yet. Okay, and this is the first time we're seeing here. This will say I'm allowing all the traffic from all the IPs. I say they're saying I'm allowing all the traffic. But even though I want able to ping and mount it, I'm not able to ping also. Okay, why? Because they say I am only allowing the source with this name. And this might be first time we are saying source with something like this name. What I mean by this, okay, let me explain you this concept. Now, this concept is a little bit about security group, and we normally use this concept a lot in the cloud world. Okay, so you know what happened normally? For example, okay, let's say this is the IP2, this is the IP1. Okay, and let's say this IP has a web server, because we guys are comfortable with web server, and you guys know web server normally work on port number 80. And this system has, let's say we have a one firewall called security group. Okay, and guys, whenever you create a security group, we always give a security group a name. And let's say this security group name is called security group 1. This is the name of the security group. And guys, whenever we create a security group, we normally write a rule, and we write a rule that anybody who try to come on port number 80, okay, from some IP, and that some IP is called source. And the source IP would be IP1, IP2, or any IP in the world. We always write a source. So if we write any, it means anybody in the world, means any is a source, come to this port, we will allow. Who say? This security group say. And where we write this, in my inbound rule, we write here protocol or port 80. Anybody come on 80 port, source any, or I can say 0.0.0.0. We always use this one. Okay. So if I write this rule, so anybody in the world who try to come in through this firewall, and by chance this is the name of the firewall, this one, to this firewall, we allow. But at this time, we'll see source name is very little bit very weird kind of different kind of source name. Okay, and this source name is not normally till now we always use a source name either IP1, IP2, or any IP in the world. But this is a different kind of source name we see. What I mean by this, okay, again, this is one of the way to create a rule on the firewall for inbound or outbound. And this rule say, okay, for example, okay, if I write a rule in this security group, and rule say if anybody try to come on port number 80, and if source is IP1, so we only allow IP1. If source is IP2, we only allow IP2. If source is any, we allow all the IPs. But if the source is the same as my security group name, so what I'm saying, in my security group, that anybody who come in for port number 80, and the source is security group 1, it means if any computer IP1 or maybe let's say IP2, because whenever guys you launch any instance in AWS, it is compulsory to attach the security group, compulsory. Maybe security group might not have any rule, but it is compulsory to attach the security group. Means everyone will have at least one security group. Or let's say let's say this computer has security group name called security group 3. This computer has security group name called security group 2. This computer has security group name called security group 1. Maybe they have the rule, maybe they don't have the rule, but at least we have to attest one security group. Okay, and now this computer, okay, security group will say, or inbound rule say, anybody who come in my port number 80, and if the security group name is security group 1, then we'll allow. It means whatever the IP would be, because nowadays we are into the dynamic world, IPs keep on changing. Maybe today IP is 1, IP 2, then 2, 3. So allowing particular IP would be very harder. The IP maybe next time it changes. It is a dynamic IP. Okay, so rather than we allow particular IP, what can we do? We say any computer whose security group is security group 1, we'll allow. So if IP 2 come up for this port number, he say, who are you? I'm not checking your IP now. What's your security group name? This is security group 2. But because you're security group 2, I won't allow you, because I only allow security group 1. Similarly, this guy say that I am 1. So they say, again, I want to check your IP address because your security group is 1 and I'm allowing security group because your source is security group 1. So I will allow you. So that's what guys it work, guys. So technically, if you think lots of computers in your AWS cloud can connect to each other, whatever the IP would be, the IP would be anything, but they can connect to each other, or the IP might change. So one of the way to allow each other is to give both the guys same security group name, or in other computers, write a rule and say, if that computer security group is this one, allow this guy. Okay. So guys, this is a very common, very useful concept. Actually, we use a lot. Don't worry, I'll keep on discussing this concept multiple times. This example come up in the AWS cloud. After some time, you become more comfortable on. But if I again go to my this security group and they say, I'm allowing all the protocol. Anybody come to me wherever we apply this security group. Anybody come to me. Okay, come to me for port number 80, ping protocol, NFS protocol, mail server protocol, SMTP, right? We will allow whatever IP would be, doesn't matter. But if you are belong to this security group, okay, if this security group attached to you, we will allow you. That's the point. Okay. So finally, if I go back to the system again. So right now, I have the NFS server having some IP address. Let's say in my case is 200. And this guy has security group. And the rule in the security group is allow all, but source is only the guy who has the security group attached. The IP would be anything, but in the last, if you have 7E0 something, if they're attached with this security group, we will allow this guy. It means if any client of NFS client want to access, so the security say, where you are going? They say NFS. So you say all is allowed. So you can use NFS, ping anything you can do. But what is your IP? I won't change. I won't check. Can you please tell me your security group name? And if they say my security group name that they attached is this one, 7E0 in last, it means you're allowed. You can mount, you can ping, you can do all things. Okay. So that's what guys we are doing here. So this instance that I launched over here, I want this instance to be my client. The IP would be anything, doesn't matter. It would be anything. Okay. So what I'm doing in the security, I am going to attach one security group. Okay. Now, how can I attach? Here they give you the option. Let me check. 1 minute. action, security, change security group. So obviously, guys, this will become my NFS client, right? So I'm changing the security group, or you can modify that rule also, right? It would be your choice. But I also want to show you one more concept, so I'm not modifying the rule. I'm showing you how to change. Okay, and I just want to associate one new security group, and name is this one. Add. And you want to remove the older one, you want to remove. If you want to remove it. It's good practice to remove, because if you all want to become this guy as a client, right? So I want my client always connect to my server. You can remove it, but I don't want to remove, because I have a remote connectivity, and this rule is the one who is allowing SSS to my laptop. But otherwise you can remove also. Okay, so now this security group means this security group are attached to this computer. Okay, that's what I'm doing here, and save. So again, if you go here, you can see in the security, one more security group come up. Okay, so in this computer, having the IP address, it doesn't matter, but having the IP address 120, 120, this security group attached. And my NFS server say, anybody who have this security group attached is allowed for all. They can come in. Now what I'm expecting, okay, last time it was not pinging. If they have ping protocol allow, let me reconnect. This topic by chance we was discussing on the uh, security, right? But we should know this part also. So I'll go to NFS, pick this IP. 1 minute, please. Sorry, IP is, let me try to ping. 172.31.86.200. Now what I'm expecting here, they should, if the ping is allow, I think they should allow, it should ping. All right, why is not pinging? Maybe I missed some rule. Okay, let me try to do one more thing here to mount. It is not mounting. I think yeah, it's mounted. Ping might not be allowed, but when some of the server side, we have also have a rule that that disable the ping. Maybe, right? So server side, maybe they have the rule inside a server. Like if you go to Linux server, Windows server, internally at the OS level, we can have a rule to disable. Maybe they might possibility. I can comment here. Okay, but but accordingly, intention was to allow this computer, and it's allowed. How I know? Because last time it was not mounting, it won't allow you to connect. Now it's connected. And one way to confirm is I can use a df-h command, and now you can see, okay, server 200 share their storage, and I mounted one of my folder. And one more thing, if you notice here, guys, okay, IPv 200 is NFS server. It's not configured by us. It is configured by AWS, because they have this NFS service, and they shared one of their storage to us. And the size of storage, you see, 8 exabyte is a huge store, right? It's like a huge storage. So 8 exabyte storage they share to us. And the good thing is they share the entire storage, but they won't charge us, right? If you keep on storing the data, as much store, that much charge they will do. They will take from us. Okay, but technically it means if you go inside the MNT folder, you feel that you are going inside your folder. You do ls, you feel you're doing list to your local storage. If you try to create a file, for example, lw.txt, you can create a normal file. Okay, this file created with this data. So all the normal operation that you can do in a local person or local file storage that you normally do in a local hard disk, you can do everything here. Okay, but internally, okay, all the operation that you're doing, ls here, cat here, everything is behind the scene, right? You are, because you are into the mnd folder, they're going to this ip and getting the data from there. If you see the list here, you want this, guys, if you know a little bit about linux, in this list there's the modified time, there's the honor, there's the permissions. Okay, everything is coming from the nfs. Even though if you guys know about sc linux by chance, if you know, okay, this is the command we use for sc linux. So if they have the SNL rule allowed, right now they don't allowed. If they allowed, the rule also come up. So normally anything that you do on the top of inode table on the file, everything you can do here, because this is not the object storage. This is the network file system. Even if you run a dff-h command with have an t option, t in capital, okay, you can see this storage is mounted here and is formatted or come from nfs. But if you normally use a normal local hard disk partition, is xfs or ext4, something like this. Okay, but it is nfs, but it will work like a normal partition, a local partition, but it's coming from network storage. So guys, if you go to my nfs classes, there I talk a little bit more basics about nfs and more advanced, some like that concept also we discuss. But the good thing about the AWS is everything they configured. Finally, as a client, you have to run one command. And because this system is one of the centralized computer, okay. So same storage I can mount in hundreds of computers. Or because I mount in hundreds of computers, so whatever data I put here, all the computers will see the same data. Okay. Or because this data, whatever I store here, come in my local system like a normal file. So if this data is a program or website code or website or code, it will also run like a normal code. So if I write a code here and try to run, I can run it. I don't have to download it and until everything taken care by NFS. So guys, this is the actual concept of the NFS. So finally, if you see here, it's so simple to configure the NFS, even though they give you a lot of facility also behind the scene. Is called multiple server they launch. You can connect any of the servers. That's one of the facility they provide to you. Okay. So guys, we'll talk a little bit more about EFS, not in the today's class, in the upcoming class, as we go more about discuss about performance or encryptions and some extra concept we'll discuss. The way I do on other training, other topics also. So as and when the concept require, I'll come back to this topic again. We use it, but but we use NFS or EFS a lot. And by chance, anybody who was there with me in my Kubernetes classes, like EKS, there also I use the same service, right? A lot. So in advanced services also we integrate advanced services with these services a lot. Okay. So that's all guys, one small topic we discussed. By chance, in this topic, one more concept of security group also we have discussed. Okay. Let me quickly take one more topic that is related to EBS. Very small topic. Let me cover over here because we have some time left. So let me cover this topic also. Okay. So you guys know what is EBS? Okay, what EBS do? Okay, so I already explain you. So in the Amazon data center, they have a lot of storage available, or there's some kind of centralized storage available, typically known as SAN storage. So you can think they have a huge hard disk, and whenever you need any block storage or like a pen drive, right? And that to get is to EC2 instances. So you go to SAN storage or EBS, get some part of the hard disk, less 1 GB, and via the network or iSCSI protocol, you linked it or attach this. You guys know this. Okay. But what I'm trying to tell you here is finally, okay, EC2 instance will get a new hard disk. But this hard disk, via the network, come from this box or this appliance. Okay, and because this box is a storage, so typically in the Amazon world, they will have a storage team who is managing these devices. Okay, for us, or because they're the team means they're the human being, so they might be possible, even though they are very much a reliable company, but there might be possibility these team member, right, can go to this physical device and try to open this box and can see the data whatever written here. It means whatever data in the EC2 instance you write in the hard disk, finally they store here. Because they store here, so anybody can see it. Technically they are a reliable company, they have extra physical security also, but possibility is there, right? They can read the data. It means whatever data reside inside these boxes are in the clear text. Means anybody, if anybody can open, they can read your data. And if this instance is very important, data is very critical, maybe your banking side and very critical data, obviously we don't want anybody can read your our data. So what kind of security we can maintain here? Okay, so what can we do? There's a concept here. Okay, technically this part is what is a real storage, a real storage. Okay, and guys, in the real storage is like a device. So we have some concept available that the real hard disk or real storage, the entire storage we can lock. We can lock, and this lock is called encryption. It means the entire box I can lock. So whatever data inside this box, nobody can see it. Nobody can open it. We can lock it. Okay, and because if you want to lock, you need a key. You need a key. So we will have a key. Using this key, we can lock it, lock this data, or we can encrypt this data. Okay, this is one thing. Okay, and guys, whatever data you store in this box is called data at rest. Data at rest. So while data is resting, we can encrypt. So we can do data at rest encryption. Okay, so by default, data is not encrypted, but we can do it. Okay, we can do it. We can do the encryption for EBS also. We can do encryption in EFS also. And by default, in the EFS, you don't have to do. Okay, by default, they have done the encryption for us. We see here. So whatever you get the story from NFS, that is purely by default encrypted for us. You don't have to worry about. Okay, but in the EBS, it is not encrypted. You have to do it. Okay, but for the encryption, you need a key. Now here, who will create the key? Okay, so there's a multiple way we can create the key. So there's one in the future. There's one topic come up. I will discuss more about there. It's called KMS, Key Management Services. We will talk about the key, how to create the key, how it work, who create the key. Okay, but right now, whenever you create a new account in AWS, they will provide you one pre-created key that is again managed by AWS. So it is secure, but maybe some guys say because it is given by AWS, so AWS guys can use this key to open your code. But you also have a way you can create as a client your own personal key and use there. So we'll discuss in my security classes in KMS. But by default, Amazon account has given a one key pre-created. How can I see the key? So we go to services, we search for KMS, key management services. So this is a new account I have. So in a new account, they give you one pre-created key here. It's called AWS EBS key. Okay, one key they give you. But we can create our own also. We will see. So this is the AWS managed key, but we can create our own key also. We'll see in the upcoming KMS classes. But we're going to use this key to lock my data, to, or I can say to encrypt my data. So what I'm going to do here, I'll go to EC2, and in my volume section, so we have one volume here, EBS vol 1 that we created yesterday. Okay, a volume. And here, okay, if you try to modify the volume, okay, and guys, if you see here, there's no options to encrypt the volume. Because if you want to encrypt the volume, you have to encrypt the volume at the time of creation. After volume created, we can't able to encrypt it. But yeah, after volume created, if you want to encrypt, then we have to use the same route that we used yesterday. So first from the volume, I have to create a snapshot. And from the snapshot, again, I have to create a volume. And while again creating the volume, from the snapshot, that time they ask you, Do you want to encrypt it or not? But there is no direct way to encrypt the volume that is already created. But if you're creating a new volume, let's say I'm going to create a volume of 1 GB. Here they ask you, do you want to encrypt this volume or not? So I say yes. Or when you say yes, then for encryption, we need a key. So here they give you a key. So this is one key is already given by AWS, but we will see in the future how to create your own key also. Okay, but it's a secure key. You can use it, but yeah, in some of the corporate environment, we have some security policy. We don't allow the other one keys to use. We have to create our own personal keys. There's a different point. Okay, but this is a way, guys, pretty straightforward, very simple thing. Okay, but it's good for security, right? Go for security. And let me use the name OS key something one EBS. Now this hard disk is encrypted. And now the great thing, you know what? The great thing is this hard disk is encrypted. Means whatever data I put here in this box, this called data at rest, will be finally encrypted. But the interesting thing is, if I attach this hard disk to one of my OS, so the hard disk attached. Okay, all the operation will work very normal. Okay, it means, okay, this OS is running EC2. This EBS volume I attached. Okay, so in this instance, you will see this hard disk normal hard disk come up, right? As a normal hard disk. For example, I attached to this instance over here. So let me connect. So in this instance, you will see one more new hard disk come up. FD7L. You see one more new hard disk right now. This is the one. This hard disk we used yesterday. This is a new hard disk come up. So all the normal operation that you do in this OS, you can do it. You can create a partition format, mount, put the data. Okay, but behind the scene, guys, this hard disk coming from the SAN storage from EBS. Whatever operation we are doing here, finally they're storing in the storage appliance. But there they're storing everything encrypted. But as for the user and for us, we don't have to worry about how they are managing. But as soon the data reach here, everything has been encrypted. That's the nice thing. So anybody who has managing this storage as from the storage team at AWS, if you try to open this box to read, now they see data at rest, nobody can open it because they don't have the key. Key is managed by different team in the AWS world. Or maybe in the future, you will have your own key. There's a different point. Okay, so that's also we can achieve here. One more thing, guys, I just want to tell you here is now this EBS is storage. From this EBS, if you want to do a backup, you can create a snapshot. Or because this EBS is encrypted, so finally your final snapshot is also encrypted. And from this snapshot, if you again create a new volume, or because this snapshot is encrypted, so this new volume is also encrypted. And guys, this is one examination question in AWS CS examination. This question they always ask. And question they ask is, if your snapshot is encrypted and from the encrypted snapshot, if you try to create a volume, so is it work or not? Or if you work, so final volume would be what? Encrypted or not? Even though maybe while creating the snapshot, somewhere they also say the same thing. Okay, so this is my volume, and if you try to create a snapshot, okay, just give some name. Let's say LW snapshot key. We see, guys, is encrypted here automatically. There's no option to change. There's no option to change. So if your storage encrypted, so finally your snapshot automatically become encrypted. So there I show you guys it was encrypted. Maybe somewhere here they attach the keys also. Same key that is automatic encrypted. Or because snapshot is encrypted, Now from this snapshot, if you try to create a new volumes, okay, so automatically here, automatically become encrypted. There's no options they ask you to change. So the final volume was also been, even though they are also listed here, volume that are created from the encryption are automatically encrypted. Okay, and from unencrypted, already unencrypted. This is also one thing, right? So this guys, this question they always ask in the examination, right? Always ask in CS examination. Okay, this is one thing, and one more last thing. If your volume is already exist and you want to encrypt this, okay, so there's no direct way. You to first create a snapshot like this. Okay, for example, this is the snapshot we created yesterday. And after we get the snapshot, right now this snapshot is not encrypted. Then we create a volume. And while creating the volume, okay, then we can enable this. So your new volume would be encrypted. So this is again one of the approach you can use. So guys, snapshot is going to use in multiple way in the AWS world. Okay, but maybe this might be the first time you guys are learning those concepts. So don't worry, we'll take this topic multiple times in multiple angles. Practice also, guys, these examples. More and more practice, you will be very much comfortable with this. So 2 or 3 guys, small topic we cover today, and one main topic called EFS I cover. Very small topic EFS, but the interesting thing is when to use. That is the most important thing, right? And when not to use, or when to use S3. That was, I think, the most important part for today's class that I discussed, right? So that's all, guys. I just want to conclude today. I told you yesterday I can't talk much. Uh, so, but maybe I'm recovering. So from next weekend, we will again start delivering more time on these classes, right? Maybe at least 2 hours from the next weekend. But I think most of the concepts we cover today. Okay. And next weekend, guys, the topic would be on networking. There's no SS prerequisite, but if you have a basic knowledge of networking, it gives you a more uh, flexibility to know the concept what I'm going to discuss in the next class. So I think I'll share you one of my basic networking classes, even though I will share one more time to you. So I highly suggest just go through this video. At least you get the very basic idea of the networking. So we'll focus more some of the main core concepts of the networking with respect to AWS. Okay. So that's all, guys, for today. See you next weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And those guys who are in the Earth training, we'll guys see you on, no, Monday is always off. So we'll see you guys on Tuesday. So any doubts if you have, you can ask me, guys. So we'll have classes on augmented reality. Normally I do a augmented reality in my summer program, but right now we don't have a plan for the augmented reality. No, Anway, it is not compulsory to launch the EFS in North Virginia. You can launch anywhere and you can use anywhere. But right now the setup that I have done, okay, you can, if you launch your NFS in or EFS in North Virginia or Mumbai, you use the instance there. But we have a way, I will explain in upcoming classes. You launch the EFS in Mumbai and you can launch, or you can access your EFS in other region also. It is also possible there. Hers, I think I don't read your entire question, but I think you are asking about the port number NFS. NFS is actually there's a lot of port number in NFS because NFS has a multiple service like RPC bind, Mount D, but the core port number is 2041. But it it depends upon how NFS is using. So if NFS is working on the top of RPC in some of the versions we have, then the port number might change. Okay, so a lot of, I can say, a lot of service in the NFS behind the scene they run, and every service has their own port number. Why does AWS create cluster when we create EFS? um, sort of EFS is just a managed services by AWS, but if you use EFS, AWS create a one NFS server for us, but they won't create a normal NFS server. They create an NFS in a cluster. And why they create the cluster? To give a better service to us. Why? But what better service is? High availability. If one of the server goes down, a second server is keep on running for us. So there's extra service they give it to us. Can we share a security group like as we share EBS? Actually, Grace, a security group is actually not a file. It's just information, right? Um, Information we can share, no challenge. But AWS doesn't give you options to share the information, like a security group I'm talking about, right? So answer is no, we can't share the security group. But if you go to other cloud, like a private cloud, their security group is like a information store in the database. We can share the database to information shared, right? But yeah, what you ask me, can we share the security group? There's no meaning, first of all, but Amazon doesn't provide you this option. No, Rahul, if you change the zone in the NFF 1A to 1B, you can mount any of the zone server, you will see the same data. What is Lambda, Satish? In my upcoming class, I will discuss about the Lambda. Yes, Poojan, we are going to discuss about backup policies and life cycles in my future classes. Poojan, I don't think so. You guys can go for practitioner examination. Okay, I think practitioner examiners also come with a with some cost, right? So better invest your amount in directly in the main examination. It's called Solution Architect, and don't worry, I will conduct the exam bootcamp for you. So that would be more than enough for for your class for your exam passing. Akash, I prefer depend upon your domain to domain, but if you are appearing for 2-9 for examination and civil, focus more on there. Even though we have a lot of time, if you can go for both the examination if you want CS also, it will be your choice. Yes, sir. We have a way, Pradoop, Viraz, to use NFS externally. In my upcoming, there's some example we'll discuss there how to use it. Yes, Chetan, we will discuss, might also discuss FSX also in the future classes. I think Piyush, I have given the answer. What you asking me, volume or encrypted, how to encrypt these things, right? So I think this answer I have given to you. How SAN is different from NAS? Both are the network storage, but SAN is providing you finally block storage that work like a hard disk. NAS providing you NFS storage that we have to mount, and what NFS extra do for you. I think we discussed today multiple examples, right, Aditya? No, Rahul, you can't use Ansible to control Android. Okay, and even though there's no meaning of control actually, in what exactly you want to do. Okay, you want to write the code, test the code, compile the code, set up the environment. Okay, so everything is a different thing, right? So uh, if you say can we set up the environment for the Android from Ansible, answer yes. Okay, but if any other requirement, I don't know what exactly you want to do in the Ansible. So in the Android, but some of the part, especially if you think about the configuration for something, um, like in Android, when we compile the code, we use Gradle. But for the Gradle, we need a setup to be configured. So that there you can use Android to, sorry, where there we use Ansible to set up the environment for the Gradle. EFS is Chirag is a regional service, but we have a way in the EFS to access the EFS volume to other regions or other clients or out of the AWS also. How we might discuss in the future classes, but yeah, EFS is a regional service. So right now, if you see my, if I go to Mumbai, okay, and try to see EFS over there. Okay, so there's no EFS configured, right? Because I created the EFS in the Virginia. Why doesn't AWS enable permanent? Ravi, there is a reason. One of the reason is encryption give you extra little bit overhead in the terms of performance. So not everywhere we need uh, data to be secure, but mostly everywhere we need a extra performance. And second thing is encryption. Uh, we have to select. Do you need a key managed by ourselves or do you need a key managed by AWS? So obviously AWS guys doesn't know this. So they are that might be reason why they give a facility to to decide it if you need encryption or not. And if you yes, if you need encryption, so what kind of we need to we would like to manage. If we need if you delete the volume of which you create a snapshot, again we create a volume would be the original one. Sivani, I won't able to understand properly, but yes, if from the snapshot, if you create a volume and that snapshot if you delete, it won't impact the volume. The data will be there. Okay, and but from the volume, if you create the snapshot, and if your base volume will be deleted, again your snapshot data is not impacted. It's there. Okay. What is the availability of EFS? Can we use it for stored code coupled with EC2? Yes, normally Amresh, yes, very much. This is one of the great use case. We put the code or some data also in the EFS, and that we normally coupled or mount with EC2. Okay, but there's no as such relation with the VPN, right? VPN is for different purpose, right? So there's no as such relation with the VPN embrace. But yeah, uh, EFS we normally use to store data that we normally mount in multiple different instances. Okay, I'll show you one of the great use case also when I go for high availability topic or load balancers. We put the code there, and as soon as the more and more instances launch, they keep on getting the data from there. Okay, so I'll show you some of the great use case in the future classes also. No, Yobab, security group doesn't use MAC concept. Mandatory access control is a different security model. Security group is like a firewall. A mandatory access control we normally implement on the top of operating system. One of the example of mandatory access control is SE Linux. So SE Linux is a different concept. Security group is a different concept. Two different security, different for different uses. And recently, I delivered one class on security, so SE Linux. I think one month ago in my YouTube classes. If you want to understand more about Mac or SE Linux, you can go through those classes. It will give you the idea. No, you have USEFA. It is not compulsory to figure out your goal person by this particular age. What you're talking about, because nobody know, right? Actually, the passion and the goal of our career is keep on changing. Normally, right, 99.9%. Because without exploring the world, how we can decide what exactly we want? Until the age of 18, 19, 99.9%, we haven't explored the entire world. We don't know the possibilities that is exist in the world, right? But yeah, you should work for something. You just keep on exploring new things. and keep on learning new things. Why can't we EVS? Abhijit, it's all depend upon the design, right? Actually, okay. It's something like this. Why can't you mount one pen drive, or why can't you connect one pen drive to multiple laptops? You can't, right? So similarly, EBS is also like a pen drive or like a block storage. So by design, block storage is not allowed to connect with the multiple OS. There's technical reason also. I don't want to discuss right now in this training, but there's a lot of technical other reasons also. Because EBS is a storage, block storage run normally with the driver. And if one driver is already loaded in one laptop, so same other driver we can't able to manage the same storage, right? So these are the some of the technical reason why we can't. Yes, answer is Chirag. Yes, we have certain way in the EFS to connect EFS volume to our local VMs. What is inode table? Srishti, I am not discussing in this table in this class, but I think recently we have shared some of my Parsons classes. I think two classes there. Highly recommend go to the classes. There I explain you from very basics, actual the meaning of the inode table. So that's all, guys. That's all for today. A lot of questions you guys may be asking, but again, same answer. It will be covered in some of my few classes. Okay. So that's all for today. Yes, Dharmendra, in the Kubernetes, PVC, okay, in the persistent storage, we can use EFS. Even though if you go to EK service, that is a managed services of AWS, they also use EFS also behind the scene for the persistent storage. Okay. So that's all, guys. See you in the next class. Bye. Take care. See you. Good day. Good night.